that feels like a giveaway. And he invites. What is up with Frank? He sounds terrible. But they were liars. So Naomi, I'm gonna dangle a new carrot in front of my face. What? A hilarious and terrifying, nope, doesn't matter. It's very confusing up here. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse, and welcome to our first new release video for 2023. So we are going to talk all things January. No surprise, the year starts off with an epic bang. There are so many books to talk about today, so I want to dive right into it, but also wanted to just take a beat. New year, maybe some new viewers here. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. All my old friends, welcome back. But I talk about, I was gonna say because it's just me. I talk about like all things books. So reading them, writing them, author obsessions, sometimes things get a little bit weird and just having a good time. So hopefully you guys will stick around, come back for more, but let's just dive into the video so we can talk about all the books and we can all make incredibly large TBRs like we usually do. The first book I have is The House in the Pines by Ana Reyes. So this is a debut novel. What better way to start off the year with like literally something new. I love this cover and I'm intrigued by the story. So this one is being pitched as psychological suspense, and our main character, Maya, is still haunted by her childhood best friend's death. And then we get something eerily similar in the present day. So back when they were high school seniors, Maya's best friend, Aubrey, close, mysteriously dropped dead in front of the enigmatic man named Frank, who they'd been hanging around with all summer. Eek. 7 years later, Maya's just managing to move on. She's living in Boston. Yes, love me a Boston book. She has a loving boyfriend and she is kicking her secret Klonopin habit. Good for you, Maya. And then her past comes back to haunt her when she discovers a recent YouTube video in which a young woman suddenly keels over in a diner while sitting across from none other than Frank. If he's not the Grim Reaper. Plunged back into the trauma that has defined her life, Maya heads to her small Berkshire's hometown to find out the truth. So, I don't know. I'm very, very intrigued. What is up with Frank? He sounds terrible. So this one says, Maya's quest for answers forces her to relive that fateful summer, the influence Frank had over them, and then her relationship with Aubrey. So it says that this is a surprising thriller about the subtlety of memory and manipulation, confronting the past, love, returning home, love, and the powerful and lasting bonds of family and friendship. So I don't know. The cover again completely caught my attention, and then I read about the story and I was like, this just really sounds great. So there you go. Book number 1 for the year. So first up is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. So I read The Wife Upstairs, absolutely loved it. And I really enjoy Rachel Hawkins' writing style and kind of like dark humor and twistedness. So I'm very excited for this one. And to add on to it, it says this is inspired, like another reason why I'm excited, inspired by Fleetwood Mac, the Manson murders, and the infamous summer Percy and Mary Shelley spent with Lord Byron at a Lake Geneva castle, the birthplace of Frankenstein. The villa welcomes you into its deadly legacy. So this is all the Gothic vibes. We have 2 best friends in the present day who go on a girls' trip to Italy. They were like the best of friends growing up, have kind of lost touch with each other, so they want to reconnect. And it turns out this villa that they're staying at has quite the dark and messed up past. So back in 1974, a notorious rock star named Noel Gordon rented it for the summer so that he could, write an album, produce an album, create an album. And he invites a few people to come like help reignite his creative spark. So he invites this up and coming musician named Pierce Sheldon, and it ends in Pierce's murder. So there's past and present mysteries, and our main character Emily winds up digging into sort of the dark and sinister past, and it just sounds really, really cool. So I do have an arc of this one from NetGalley, which I'm excited to get into. So stay tuned. But I just love the melding of like Fleetwood Mac and the Manson murders. Okay, sure. The next book I have is The Black House by Carol Johnstone. So I have not read anything by her, but for one, this cover completely grabbed my attention when I was doing research. And then 2, I started to read about it and it sounded kind of cool. So I thought I would add it to the list. So in this one, it says we get sort of some Gothic suspense, shocking twists. We're on an isolated Scottish island and we've got some past and present timelines. So in the 90s, we have a man named Robert Reed, and he moved his family to Scotland's Outer Hebrides, hybrids. I'm probably saying that wrong. And it says, driven by hope, craving safety and community, and hiding a terrible secret. So he's a total outsider. He wants to fit in. And then we have this violent and legendary storm raging around him. And it says he begins to unravel, believing his fate on the remote island cannot be escaped. And then we have a woman named Maggie McKay. So when she was 5 years old, she sensed something. And she announced that a man on this island, where Robert Reed has moved his family, a place she has never been to, she tells everyone that there's a man there who's been murdered. So it says her unfounded claim drew media attention and turned the locals against each other, creating rifts that never mended. So now 20 years later, she's trying to find out what actually happened. What are the islanders hiding? But when she begins to receive ominous threats, Maggie is forced to consider how much she's willing to risk to discover the horrifying truth. So I don't know. I'm just really intrigued by this. It just sounds kind of cool. And like I said, I keep seeing that book Mirrorland everywhere. So I'm also super intrigued by Carol Johnstone as the author. But did I tell you guys I keep seeing Mirrorland everywhere, or did I have that conversation inside my head? I see it at the bookstore all the time. So anyway, this will be my first book by her. I'm excited. So next up, I have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I got this from Minotaur as an ARC, and I'm super excited about it. I am going to read it before the year is out. Obviously, I'm filming this before the year is out, but I was a huge fan of A Flicker in the Dark. I have talked about this book several times already on the channel, so you guys are familiar with it. And if you guys are Book of the Month subscribers, then you also maybe got your hands on it because it came out early through their December box, which is just super cool. So this book, I, again, want to stay in the dark, as usual. So it says, scorned wife, desperate mother, possible suspect. She's all of the above, and she will do anything to find the truth, no matter where it leads. So A Flicker in the Dark for me was just such an incredible debut. It was atmospheric. We had past and present timelines. I loved Stacey Willingham's writing. I loved her characters. I have super high expectations for this book. So stay tuned, because when I do read it, you guys will hear all about it. But if you have not yet gotten your hands on it and you're interested, this one will be out in no time. Next up is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the book I've mentioned multiple times, but the cover I just can't even bear to look at with the bunny on it. It hurts me. But this is book number 2 in the Alex Stern trilogy. It's a duology, but who's counting? So I have not yet read Ninth House. I keep trying to move it to prominent places. I feel like Ninth House is a mood, and I just haven't been in it yet, but one of these days. So for anyone who was worried I pre-ordered this book, I did not. I'm still going to read Ninth House first, but I'm just really intrigued by the book, despite not having read the first one. So since it is a sequel, I don't really want to say much about it. It just says, Alex Stern returns in another tale of murder and dark magic set among the Ivy League elite. So in book number 1, she is a student at Yale, and it's like secret societies, but a fantastical element. And I've heard great things about it. So stay tuned after I read that to see if I read this. Mary Kubica is back with a new book. So this is Just the Nicest Couple. And it says 2 couples, 2 close friends, 1 missing husband. So I read Local Woman Missing earlier this year, I think. I will have to fact check that, but I really enjoyed it. So I had not read a Mary Kubica book in a minute or two, and when I read Local Woman Missing, I was like, this is why I love this woman. She writes such great books, such great characters. So in this one, it says, Jake Hayes is missing. This much is certain. At first, his wife Nina thinks he is blowing off steam at a friend's house after their heated fight the night before. But then a day goes by, 2 days, 5, and Jake is nowhere to be found. Give me a missing husband. Then we have Lily, who is Nina's friend and coworker, who thinks she might have been the last person to see Jake before he went missing. After Lily confesses everything to her husband, Christian, the two decide that nobody can find out what happened leading up to Jake's disappearance, especially not Nina. But Nina is out there looking for her husband, and she won't stop until the truth is discovered. I love this. Keep all the secrets from your friend and coworker. Like, what did you do? Where's the husband? And another killer cover. Covers are going to be like out of the ballpark this year. It's my prediction. The next book I have is Small World by Laura Zigman, and another book with a house on the cover. So I feel like houses are going to be a trend. I feel like there's a readathon or video in there, books with houses on the cover. Just putting it out there now. So I have read multiple Laura Zigman books and I really enjoy her as an author. So all the way back in the day, I read Animal Husbandry, which was her first book and was so great. She wrote Dating Big Bird. She wrote Separation Anxiety, which I completely loved. And I'm trying to think what the other one, it's the woman with the boot on the cover. Her. It's called Her. That was not a hard title to remember. Anyway, I've been a huge fan of hers for a long time and I very much enjoy her writing. So I'm excited to see something new from her. And it says, this is a heartfelt novel about two offbeat and newly divorced sisters who move in together as adults and finally reckon with their childhood. So for anyone who has been here with me, this is not a thriller, which almost everything on this list is a thriller, but this is a non-thriller for anyone looking for a little change of pace here. So in this book, we have a woman named Joyce. She has been divorced for a year and she is settling into being single again. It says she really enjoys her job archiving family photos and videos, and she's developed a secret comforting hobby, trolling the neighborhood social networking site Small World for posts that help solve life's easiest problems. When her older sister Lydia, also divorced, calls to tell her she's moving back east from Los Angeles after almost 30 years, Joyce invites Lydia to move into her Cambridge apartment temporarily, just until she finds a place of her own. Their unlikely cohabitation turns out to be the post-divorce rebound relationship Joyce hadn't planned on having. And instead of forging the bond she always dreamed of with Lydia, their relationship frays. So we get a complicated family history, we get some past strife between them, some confronting some things that happened in their family past. And I have no doubt that this book will probably make me cry. Separation Anxiety made me cry. But I think Laura Zigman is just such a gifted writer, and I'm really excited to read this one. And I love her character so much, and she ages her characters with her as she ages. So I also love following authors kind of through the trajectory of their careers and get to read along with them and grow with them in that way. So I'm excited about it. The next book is Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darwent. So this is a debut and it is dark academia and toxic friendships. So I'm in. That's all I need to know. All I need to know. But in case anybody wants to know a little bit more. So this book is set at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and we are following an outsider who is trying to fit in. Things I love. There's a reason why these tropes work so well. So in this book, we are following Claire, and she is utterly alone and yearning to reinvent herself and hide all of her dark secrets, because of course she is. So she winds up meeting this girl, Tabitha, who is the charismatic, beautiful, and intimidating rich girl in her art history class. She knows she's destined to be friends with her and her exclusive circle. So it says, what is the cost of an extraordinary life if others have to pay? Reimagining the classic themes of obsession and striving with an original and sinister edge. The Things We Do to Our Friends is a seductive thriller about the toxic battle between those who have, those who covet, between the desire to truly belong and the danger of being truly known. I feel like this is being pitched so deliciously, so I'm very, very, very excited for this one. The next book is by Kat Rosenfield, and this is You Must Remember This. So I have her first book, No One Will Miss Her, which I will read one of these days. But this one says, a Knives Out style whodunit with a twist of Taylor Jenkins Reid. What? It's an immersive gothic mystery with a long ago love affair, icy death, and a rich family gone bad. Again, I love everything about these books. Everything sounds absolutely amazing. So we have Christmas Eve, 85-year-old Miriam Gardner walks onto the vast frozen river behind her home. As a younger woman, she used to steal out on winter nights to meet her lover, walking straight across the ice to their secret meeting place. She knows the way, but not the year. Miriam, her mind clouded by dementia, doesn't hear the snap of thin ice until it's too late. Was it an accident? Suicide? Or worse, did someone urge the old woman onto the frozen river on purpose? So we have plenty of suspects, all of her relatives, and it says, as her relatives obsess over getting the will thrown out, Delphine, who is our main character, and Delphine is Miriam's granddaughter, and everything in the will has been left to her. So everyone is completely not excited about that. They're not having it. So it says, Delphine begins to notice inconsistencies in the family's stories and is emboldened to start investigating until the trail seems to lead her onto thin ice as well. That's clever. I like that. So I have heard great things about Kat Rosenfield's first book, And here it is. Here it is. I will read it. I will read it and I will let you guys know. But in the meantime, I'm also going to completely obsess over this one. I should point this way. And I mean, Knives Out meets Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love that mashup. Sounds great. Next up is a book by Kate Alice Marshall, and it's called What Lies in the Woods. So I read Rules for Vanishing, which I completely loved. It was like super creepy. It's a YA mystery. It has like dual timeline. I feel like it has like more than dual timelines. A lot of timelines, a lot of mixed media. It was like just a very creepy, atmospheric, really fun book. Definitely super creepy though. But this is, I want to say, an adult book. Let me check. Let me do my research. Yes, so this is an adult book, it says. If we all, it also says young adult. All right, we're just gonna roll with Goodreads here. So it says they were 11 when they sent a killer to prison. They were heroes, but they were also liars. Naomi Shaw used to believe in magic. 22 years ago, she and her two best friends, Cassidy and Olivia, spent the summer roaming the woods, imagining a world of ceremony and wonder. They called it the Goddess Game. The summer ended suddenly when Naomi was attacked. Miraculously, she survived her 17 stab wounds, and lived to identify the man who had hurt her. The girl's testimony put away a serial killer wanted for murdering 6 women. They were heroes, and they were liars. For decades, the friends have kept a secret worth killing for, but now Olivia wants to tell, and Naomi sets out to find out what really happened in the woods, no matter how dangerous the truth turns out to be. Yikes, 17 times. That's some stuff. That's some stab wounds. So I guess I can see how it's like YA because we're going to get them when they're younger and then the present day them. So anyway, I'm really excited about this. I very much enjoyed her writing with Rules for Vanishing, and I'm intrigued because this definitely, Rules for Vanishing was straight YA. They were high school students on a mission to find a missing girl. This, at least, we're going to get the YA, not that I love them both. I love YA mysteries and adult. So anyway, it's like a best of both worlds situation. Let's call it that. The next book I also have a physical copy of, and this is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. So full disclosure, this is actually the UK edition of the book because when I started to hear people who had arcs of it rave about this book, I of course immediately was like, let me look into this. And then I realized it had already come out in the UK. So I was like, let me get my hands on it. Have I read it yet? No, but there's still time. My full intention is to read it before it comes out in the US because otherwise what's the point of buying it early? It's fine. It's totally fine. So the description on this one is, I was dreading the Cunningham family reunion even before the first murder. Before the storm stranded us at the mountain resort. The thing is, us Cunninghams don't really get along. We've only got one thing in common. We've all killed someone. My brother, my stepsister, my wife, my father, my mother, my sister-in-law, my uncle, my stepfather, my aunt, even me. When they find the first body in the snow, it's clear that only a Cunningham could have committed the crime, and it's up to me to prove it. There are plenty of killers in my family, but only one murderer. I'm so excited for this. It just sounds so cool. And again, I was seeing so many people rave about it, and then I just got really, really excited for it. So you guys know I love family reunions. I just love all the dark and messed up stuff. Everyone in my family has killed someone. It's genius. I think it just sounds absolutely great. So again, stay tuned because when I read it, I'll be talking about this one too, obviously, because that's what we do. I don't know why do I keep saying we? Let's get on to the next one. The next book I have is Grady Hendrix' new one, How to Sell a Haunted House. So I actually have the arc of this as well from Berkeley. So thank you, Berkeley. I'm excited for this because I do very much enjoy some haunted house vibes, and I did not do well with the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires because of some of the body horror in that, but I want to give Grady Hendrix another try because I also very much enjoy him. I've listened to like multiple author interviews with him, and I love his humor and his approach to his writing and how he weaves together stories. So, or like how he talks about how he creates his stories, I should say. So I enjoyed Southern Book Club's Guide up until it just reached a point where I couldn't handle the body horror part of it. I was also listening to it on audiobook, which might have been part of it. So anyway, I'm going to physically read How to Sell a Haunted House. So in this one says, your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. Every childhood home is haunted, and each of us are possessed by our parents. When their parents die at the end of the Panorama pandemic, interesting. Louise and Mark Joyner are devastated, but nothing can prepare them for how bad things are about to get. The two siblings are almost totally estranged and couldn't be more different. Now, however, they don't have a choice but to get along. The virus has passed and both of them are facing bank accounts ravaged by the economic meltdown. This is very timely. Their one asset is their childhood home. They need to get it on the market as soon as possible because they need the money. Yet before their parents died, they taped newspaper over the windows and nailed shut the attic door. What? So it says, as disturbing events stack up in the house, Louise and Mark have to learn that sometimes the only way to break away from the past, sometimes the only way to sell a haunted house is to burn it all down. I'm very intrigued. I'll be honest, I did not know anything about this book before I read about it, which is probably strikingly obvious to you guys. But the haunted house concept, you guys know I loved Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Not that I'm comparing the two, but I know they get compared a lot. And I just was very intrigued. And like I said, I want to give him another shot because I think it's going to be worth the wait to get a book for... I think it's going to be worth the wait to find one of his books that works for me. So this is horror. It's going to be messed up, and I'm guessing might have some dark humor to it, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. Next up, we have an author that I absolutely love, that I absolutely need to read more of, and it's John Mars, and this is The Marriage Act. So I read the one when it came out, period, when it came out. I absolutely loved it. And I need to read more of his books. So I did read What Lies Between Us. I have a couple more of his books. So we'll get into it. But in the meantime, I'm going to dangle a new carrot in front of my face. So this one says, what if marriage was the law? Dare you disobey? Britain, the near future. A right-wing government believes it has the answer to all of society's ills, the Sanctity of Marriage Act, which actively encourages marriage as the norm, punishing those who choose to remain single. I love what this man comes up with. 4 couples are about to discover just how impossible relationships can be when the government is monitoring every aspect of our personal lives, monitoring every word, every minor disagreement, and it will use every tool in its arsenal to ensure everyone will love, honor, and obey. Yikes. So the one was based on the fact that our DNA can predict our perfect soulmate, and people were submitting their DNA to this site, and it was like breaking up marriages. People were dating all sorts of dark and messed up people, and they didn't even know it. But it was such a fascinating concept to me, and this sounds similarly fascinating, so I'm excited for this. What a friggin' nightmare, though, of a situation. I don't know how he comes up with this stuff, but I am down for it. The next up is The Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. So this has already come out in the UK, but it will be coming out in the US in January. And I read The Appeal earlier this year, which I know came out in the UK the year before. So obviously we're a little bit behind on Janice Hallett here. But I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was so interestingly crafted. It was told all in an epistolary style. And there were just so many interesting characters. I just really enjoyed what she did with that. So I'm excited to read more from her. So excited to get a little more comfortable here. So this one says, the mysterious connection between a teacher's disappearance and an unsolved code in a children's book is explored in this novel. So 40 years ago, Stephen Smithy Smith found a copy of a famous children's book by disgraced author Edith Twyford. Its margins full of strange markings and annotations. When he showed it to his remedial English teacher, Mrs. Isles, she believed it was part of a secret code that ran through all of Twyford's novels. And when she disappeared on a class field trip, Smithy became convinced that she had been right. So now, out of prison after a long stretch, Smithy, what did you do? He decides to investigate the mystery that's haunted him for decades. In a series of voice recordings from an old iPhone from his estranged son, Smithy alternates between visiting the people of his childhood and looking back on the events that later landed him in prison. This is another book that I knew nothing about other than the author. So I'm like, if I seem like, I'm like, ooh, this sounds super cool. That's why. So it says, it soon becomes clear that Edith Twyford wasn't just a writer of forgotten children's stories. The Twyford Code holds a great secret, and Smithy may just have the key. It says, for lovers of word games, puzzles, and stories of redemption. So this sounds really fascinating to me. So The Appeal did not let me down at all. I thought it was such a unique and fun story, and I expect the same out of this one. If you guys have read this one, again, this has been out for a while, obviously, let me know, because intrigued. And the last book I have is Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Cosimano. So this is the third book in the Finley Donovan series. I also have an arc of this from Minotaur on NetGalley, which I am going to be reading before the book comes out, and I'm excited. So if you guys have followed me, I reread book number 2 in the Finley series, which I have since moved to my red shelf. And I just love this series so much. So it is the third book. I don't want to talk too much about plot and just sort of the core of the story. So in book number 1, we meet Finley Donovan. She is a recently divorced mother of 2. Her husband still lives down the street so he can be near their kids because they have very young kids, but he shacked up with the realtor of their house. So not cool, dude, not cool. But Finley is a writer of thrillers. She's struggling to write her next book. She's struggling to keep it all together. And just to make things even better, her garbage husband fired their nanny, Vero. So the concept of the book, the Finley book, is Finley is having lunch with her agent and somebody overhears her talking about the plot of her book, which is a murder mystery, and mistakes Finley for a hitwoman and offers Finley a lot of money to kill her husband. So hijinks ensue. Finley winds up rehiring Vero. The two of them are friendship goals. I've said this over and over again, so if you guys have been here for a while, I apologize. But to me, it is the ladies from Dead to Me, Linda Cardellini and Christina Applegate meets Lucy and Ethel, and I just love it. So we've got some humor, we've got some romance, we've got some family stuff, we get great mom struggles, we get great writer struggles, and I just adored everything about both of these books. So I'm really excited to see what hot mess Finley gets herself into next, because I guarantee it's going to be great. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Welcome to 2023. It's just going to be a great reading year. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. So many great books are coming out, so many great books to be read, and also fantastic backlists to discover, because like I said, a bunch of these authors, I have backlist books of theirs that I want to read. But let me know what you guys are most excited about in January, or even like a book for 2023 that you're super excited about. I have several, and we'll just keep the conversation going. So if you made it this far, thank you guys. You guys rock so much. And I'll see you in another video. Bye, everybody.